We're going Department of War, and I'd like to ask our Secretary of War to say a few words.
This name change is not just about renaming. It's about restoring the warrior ethos.
President Trump and Secretary of Defense Hegseth have both said they're committed to restoring American military tradition by restoring certain names. But what military tradition are they reviving or restoring here? In 1947, President Truman and Congress wanted to save us money. And they thought it would be more efficient if the military were unified, if the Army and the Navy, which included the Marine Corps, would be unified. When the idea of putting these together arose, the Navy didn't want to do it. They were absolutely against the idea. They couldn't call this unified Army and Navy the War Department because that would mean the Army had won. And they obviously couldn't call it the Navy Department because, well, how can you have an Army and a Navy Department? So they chose a neutral term. Defense. The Defense Department.
We're going to set the tone for this country. America first, peace through strength, brought to you by the War Department. We're back.
So now that Secretary Hegseth will become the Secretary of War, does that mean that the Navy and the Marine Corps are going to get kicked out of the Pentagon? The American military tradition is not to describe the Navy or the Marine Corps as part of the Department of War.
Really, it has to do with winning. We should have won every war. We could have won every war, but we really chose to be very politically correct or wokey.
The history that they're asserting is completely made up. They might believe that the term Defense Department is some kind of DEI term. We're talking about 1947. A time when the United States understood it needed a strong defense. Change the name if you want to. But the idea that the name Defense Department has any political or ideology associated with it is baloney.
We're going Department of...
All right, all praises be to the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh, and his son, whose name is Yahweh Shai. Barakatah Yahweh, bless the Lord Yahweh, and Barakatah Yahweh Shai. And we'll jump right into it. This is Brother Sakalah back with a lesson all through the Spirit. And we'll touch on today the Department of War, which was formerly known as the Department of Defense. As we saw the clip here, this speaks to the nature of Esau Edom, being that war was why he was created, why he was designed. It was designed to bring evil and mischief and war and chaos in the earth. As people, brothers will say, he's the master of disaster. This is Psalm 55 and verse 20. It says, he hath put forth his hand against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. When you go into all the covenants that were made with the natives of this land, the so-called Native Americans, Gad and Reuben, he broke all the covenants with them. And he's done that all around the earth, as it says in Micah 2 and 2, that he covered fields and take them by violence, right? And he destroyed man and his heritage. Psalm 55 and 20 again, he hath put forth his hand against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. So in the mind and the spirit of Esau is the spirit of war, because the Most High God has put that spirit within him. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords, speaking of war. So he's always, seeking to conquer, to divide and conquer. Now, this is throughout the scriptures. Let's get a few examples. This comes to mind as well. This is Psalm 140th chapter, speaking of how war is in his heart, in his spirit. Psalm 140 and 1, it says, deliver me, O Yahweh, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man. And who is the evil and violent man on the earth? Speaking about Esau Edom, the so-called white man, the European, the Caucasian today, which imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually are they gathered together for war. So continually in the mind and the spirit of the Edomites is war. And a lot of these world wars, when you look into them, were pushed and perpetuated by Edomites predominantly. And a lot of Edomites killing themselves to get power on the earth. And you had the other nations sprinkled in. But mostly, I'll say, the majority of these world wars were started and pushed by Edomites. And there was a lot of Edomite on Edomite violence. So that's in his spirit, that's in his heart, is war. Now, why is that so? This is in the book of Revelation. This is what was revealed to John the Revelator, the Apostle John, speaking of Esau and war. Revelation 6:4, it says, and there went out another horse, that horse being religious symbolism, religious symbology. And in the scriptures, that horse speaks of power, like horsepower, like in a car. And there went out another horse, so power, that was red. So that red horse, that man that had great power, was the red man, going back to Genesis, the 25th chapter, where it said he was given, he was blessed with the gift of the sword. And power was given to him that sat thereon, speaking to Esau, to take peace from the earth. So with that power, the Most High gave it and put it in the spirit to take peace from the earth. As the scriptures say, God is not in all of his thoughts. So he's not a righteous, upright man by nature. He's a man of war. It says, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given him a great sword. So he was given the gift of war. That's why he just renamed the Department of Defense the Department of War, because war is what's in his spirit and war is what's in his heart. This is the book of Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, and the 4th verse. Habakkuk 2:4, it says, behold, his soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in him. So Esau's nature is not a righteous nature. He has a nature that is against, which is why he is Satan, Shaitan, against righteousness. Behold, his soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. So that is what the believers are doing. The elect, the 1/3 of the nation of Israel, are living according to faith, because his soul, Esau's soul, is not upright in him. He is profane or outside of the temple. Now, when you go into that word upright or not upright, it speaks about not being straightforward. To esteem righteous, he's not a righteous man. It says pleasing and agreeable, meaning he is about war. So he's not, he doesn't bring peace. As we read in Revelation 6, he was set up to take peace from the earth. And that's what he's done. And he's done that in a great way. So now let's continue on, just to show some of the scriptures that speak about Esau, Edom today, here in the last days, and how he would be identified. This is Jeremiah 50:22. A sound of battle is in the land. So when you start bringing combat troops into the cities, different cities in America, DC was before, now Chicago, I've been here in New York, and other cities, Oakland, these are others that have been pushed out there. Well, that shows you that that is perpetuating war, because those soldiers were designed to actually be in combat. I myself, being a combat veteran myself, those soldiers were, howitzers and Bradleys were not made, to be in urban combat. So that right there shows you that just even what is being pushed and what's being done is showing you that the mindset that's there is perpetuating or pushing war, a spirit of war, a spirit of violence. It's provoking violence. A sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. Now, part of that sound of battle is the war cry that's going out throughout all the earth. But not just there, it's going on right here in America. As you had yesterday, you had the country of Qatar, which I've been there as well, in the Middle East. I was struck yesterday by the Israeli people. So that just recently happened. And so now, the Qatari people are looking to see what they need to do in response to that. And Qatar has military bases there. They're an ally of Babylon, of America. And it was struck by the Israeli people, showing you when the scriptures say that that the least of the flock is going to draw them out. America is going to be drawn into World War III because of the Israeli people, for those that would be opposed to that. That's prophetic and that's scriptural. So the sound of battle is in the land. So not only that going on, we also know that what's going on with Maduro, the president of Venezuela. You got thousands of troops on the borders of Venezuela because America just recently struck a vessel. They struck a vessel that was supposedly carrying drugs or narcotics, as they say. So that is the sign of, the sound of battle being in the land, the spirit of war. And it's only going to grow more and more, as we get closer to the time of all our chaos, which is the time of Jacob's trouble. Now, let me get this and close it out. This is the book of Malachi. This comes to mind as well. The first chapter. Speaking of the spirit of Esau and the spirit of war. Malachi 1 and 2, I have loved you, saith the Lord Yahweh. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, showing you the difference between Jacob and Esau? The Most High put a difference between the two. Saith the Lord Yahweh, yet I have loved Jacob. And that goes all the way back once again to Genesis, the 25th chapter. Verse 3, and I hated Esau, so God the Most High, he hates Esau. And there's been talk recently about you can't abhor an Edomite. I've heard that more recently, and there's a controversy about that. Well, the Most High hates Esau. So what can any man say about that? When you read in the book of Deuteronomy, so there's people, Israelites, that'll say, well, you can't abhor an Edomite. Well, God abhors the Edomite. He has rejected or hated Esau. And I hated Esau, so if the Most High hate them, what can a man then say, another Israelite man, about, what and how we ought to deal with Esau? Now, we are to be at peace with all men. But King David spoke about that as well. He said, do I not hate them which hate thee, O Lord? I hate them with perfect hatred. And I hated Esau, so God clearly hates. And in his mountains and his heritage, it says, and laid his mountains and his heritage waits for the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom saith, here on the right-hand side in the NLT, Esau's descendants, or Esau's descendants in Edom. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. And that was done during the time of the Renaissance. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, the God of armies. They will build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness. So the Edomites, the descendants of Esau, are known as the border of wickedness in the sight of God. And they shall call them the border of wickedness. Wherever the Edomites are, they are the ones that are perpetuating war and pushing evil. They are the violent man, the evil man, the border of wickedness. And they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord Yahweh hath indignation forever. So the Most High has anger and hatred against the Edomites forever. Forever. And that's never going to change, no matter what anybody's opinion is or their feelings are. That's scripture, and that's, so it was said and so it was written. That's the law. So through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, I pray that this lesson was edifying to you believing brothers and sisters. I want to give all praises, infinite honor and glory to the God of heaven and earth, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. All praises be to the Most High God, Yahweh, and the Son whose name is Yahushai. Honors be to the elect elders of the nation of Israel who labored in truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth. Barakim La Habayaf Madabada. Blessings to the house of David, which you brothers labored in truth and in sincerity, and to the Akyam Wa Akwath brothers and sisters that also listen and believe on the glorious gospel being preached. Unto you I say Shalom, Shalom, and Barakatham, Yad.